So you mean to tell me that this Negroidian's actions literally got people smoked, all because he was running around town with a snowflake that turned out to be crazy too? Child, please. Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel Reviewed, where we talk about all things television and film from today and yesteryear. So I want us to come on here and do a brief recap of episodes 6 and 7 from Welcome to Derry. As we all know, the season finale is tonight, and I cannot wait to see how it is going to turn out. Okay. So the episode starts off with Leroy being in somewhat of a heated exchange with both his wife and Will. Of course, Leroy, he is on 10 because he just unalived his best friend. And, he's explaining to Charlotte how, they were experiencing all these hallucinations or whatnot, how things just seem so vivid and real. And Charlotte, she was like, that's impossible. How can that possibly be? And, her husband, Leroy, he's trying to explain to her that, Pennywise is he doesn't use the name Pennywise, but he is just trying to better explain everything to Charlotte and how things happen. And in this moment, I think Leroy is just trying to make sense of what he did, because he did unalive his best friend. And Will is like, Dad, this thing just does not care. Will is like, once you see it, it is what it is. It's like you up and you stuck until you figure out how to get rid of Pennywise. Okay. And so they are currently living on base. Leroy ended up moving his family out to the Air Force base, and I think because he felt maybe they would be a little safer there. And he's basically telling Will that he needs to stay his behind in the house. And so Will was like, I finally have friends, that I have real friends, and they need to know that I'm here for them and that I'm not going to turn my back on them. And Leroy said something, and Will was like, you're right, I'm nothing like you, because I would never send my friends to be on a permanent vacation with the Lord. And honey, when he said that, Leroy popped the mess out of Will, knocked him down to the ground, honey. He literally slapped that boy to the floor. And I was like, you got to be freaking kidding me. And even his wife was like, oh my God, I cannot believe you just hit our son. She was in shock. And Will was like, oh my God, he's gotten to you too. And so when he was saying that, he was making it seem as if Pennywise had gotten to his father's head. But the way that I took it is just like Leroy is just acting out on his anger because of him unaliving his best friend, and he is just, lashing out on everyone. But nonetheless, honey, Will ends up running out of the house. So honey, Will gets on his bike and he is leaving the Air Force base. Like, I don't care what my dad just said, I need to go see about my friends. And he does just that. So, honey, while Will is on his bike riding off his feelings, the people in the town of Derry are in an uproar because of the inmate bus crash. So, we all know that Hank, Ronnie's dad, was on the bus headed to a prison. The bus ended up crashing, and Hank, he escapes. So, at this point, they are putting up all these want ads looking for this Negro. Okay, they're getting their weapons together, they're getting their groups together. It's definitely at the point of where they're like, grab your torches and your pitchforks, and we about to hunt this Negro down like they tried to do Shrek. Okay.
I think it's in there. All right. Let's get it. Oh, hold on. Do you know what that thing could do to you?
Yeah.
It'll grind your bones for its bread.
Yes. Well, actually, that would be a giant. Now, ogres, oh, they're much worse. They'll make a suit from your freshly peeled skin.
No.
They'll shave your liver, squeeze the jelly from your eyes. Actually, it's quite good on toast.
Back! Back, please! Back!
The kids meet up at their rooftop, their little hangout spot, and Lily is showing them the amulet that she found in the sewer. And she's letting them know that whatever this is, it has some type of hold on Pennywise, because it made him leave me alone. Like, it literally made him retract and, bag the heck up off of me. And so she was like, so now that we have this, we really need to go back into the sewer. And her wanting to go back into the sewer is not sitting well with people, mainly Ronnie. And Will, he tries to touch the amulet, and so Lily was like, don't touch it, don't put your hands on it. So it is also giving Lily some type of a little bit of power, I guess her having it. And Ronnie was like, girl, we are not going back into the sewer. Do you not realize that we barely escaped with our lives, and you want us to go back down there and put our lives at risk again? She's like, you must be crazy for real. You must be out your mind. You must really belong in that crazy house, Jupiter Hill. And so Lily was like, how, like, oh my God, I cannot believe like you saying these things to me. She's just like, all I've tried to do is help you and, help, get your dad off. And Ronnie was like, girl, my dad wouldn't be in the position that he was in had you not been looking for Maddie. She was like, had you all never showed up to my home insisting on going to the movie theater, none of your friends would be unalive. And no one would be looking at my dad thinking that he is the person that did these things to these children. Ronnie was like, we're not about to go back down in the doggone sewer. She was pretty much like, go down there by yourself. And so Rich, he's like, guys, calm down. This is what it wants us to do. It wants us to turn our backs on each other. But at the same time, you know, why Lily, I get why Lily feels like they can go back into the sewer because they now have the amulet. However, Ronnie is like, no, and Lily wants to go down there, I guess, to kind of find the bodies of the kids. I don't know if she planned on leading the police down there or whatever, whatever. Nonetheless, Ronnie was not feeling it, honey, and she ended up leaving. And Will, he went to go find her. Will eventually catches up with Ronnie, and he's like, hey, things went a little bit too far. And Ronnie's like, I know. She's like, but I'm just tired. I'm sick and tired of all of this that is going on. I'm tired of being afraid. I'm tired of wondering what's going on with my dad and where he is. And she was like, all these kids that are being unalive. She's like, I'm just frustrated and I'm tired. And Will, he was like, I know, I understand. And Lily was like, the fact that she wants us to go back in those sewers, that's absolutely crazy. I just don't get it. And Will was like, we just have to. He's pretty much like, we got to stick together. We can't really turn our backs on each other right now. We really need each other. And so in this moment, they end up calming down. Well, Ronnie ends up calming down, and her and Will embrace, they hug, and then they about to kiss. And I was like, okay, they about to have their little first kiss with each other, honey. But Will's mama put a pin in there real quick. Okay.
William Dubois Hanlon, get your disobedient behind in this car right now.
Dubois?
You too, little miss.
Me? Why?
Y'all think y'all grown?
Charlotte ends up bringing Ronnie and Will to the little juke joint that the Air Force men have in the woods, and Ronnie finds out that her dad is staying there. She's uber excited to see her dad. She's like, I missed you so much. And he was like, I missed you. I promise you I'm going to do whatever I can for us to never be separated again. So Ronnie's all happy and ecstatic, honey. But let me tell you who was not happy, okay? When Dick found out that Hank was staying there, baby, he was not here for it at all. He was like, man, I got enough on my plate with this mess going on with this doggone Pennywise, and y'all got this Negroidian up in here. He was like, I don't want nothing to do with it. So of course Hank staying there is not sitting well with Dick. And I'm telling you, when this happened, I knew something was not going to turn out right with this whole situation. Like, even though, these black military men felt like, that they had their little escape, like their little piece to themselves, a little piece of property to themselves for them to go and chill. Understand that during these times, everybody knew that y'all had that spot. And when I say everybody, I'm talking about the good old boys. Okay. So when I saw that Hank was staying there, I was like, this is not going to turn out good at all. Rich and Marge are having lunch at school, and they are briefly talking about everything that has transpired the past couple of days. Rich lets Marge know that Ronnie's dad is staying at the juke joint, and that they are going to go see her later on to check on her and make sure she's good. He also says to Marge, hey, don't say anything about where her dad is because we don't want the word to get out. We don't want people to know that we know where he is. So they also mentioned how the both of them were having issues sleeping at home the night before. They were afraid to go into their bathrooms because they were both hearing voices in their drain pipes. So Leroy pulls up on old boy, okay, and he is just trying to figure out what happened to you in the sewer. What did you see? And so we finally learned that Dick, he basically can talk to people who have passed on. So not only is he somewhat of a clairvoyant, but everything, the thing that we learned that he was keeping in the box, his box of fears, were the voices and the visions that he was able to see because he can communicate with people who have passed on. So Leroy, he is asking Dick to basically allow himself to go into that zone so they can defeat whatever this is, because Leroy still doesn't know Pennywise as Pennywise. Okay, he just still sees it as this entity that is able to f with people's mind, make them see things and hear things that are not there. So Dick is like, nah, I'm not about to do that. Leroy was like, can you just do it one time and allow a person to guide you just one time and then just put it away? And Dick was like, what if I can't? Like, man, what if I'm not able to do that anymore? Like, I don't want to deal with this. He's drinking. He's just trying to pretty much forget about everything that happened today and that particular day. And he was like, you need to get up out of my room. I'm not trying to hear nothing you got to say. I'm not trying to go down that rabbit hole with all this mess with all these people. I boxed it up and I want to leave it there. But unfortunately, it's a little bit too late. Like, we already know that Dick is already falling back into that trap that is Pennywise. And unfortunately, it just doesn't seem like he's going to be able to turn it off.
Okay, so what happens if I can't shove it all away like before? You don't know. You don't know, do you? Or you don't give a fuck? Either way, all this shit is about what you want.
It's about doing what's right.
Oh, get the fuck out of here with that. You know what Shaw's calling needs his boot shined, you fucking bootlicker.
Hey, you don't talk to me like that. I'm your superior officer.
I don't give a fuck! Get out!
This is the after effects of Marge stabbing herself in her own eye. Okay. Now, she and Rich are on the rooftop, and this is before they get ready to go to the juke joint. And she tells him that she needs to change her bandages. And he's like, oh, I can do it for you. He says something about him being like a scout or something. So he learned how to, do medical things there. And she's like, no, it's pretty gross. He's like, no, it's, I'll change it for you. So he's trying to take off the bandage, and then he ends up licking his finger and wetting it. She's like, ew, what are you doing? He was like, what? Saliva can help loosen the bandages so it won't hurt when I'm taking it off. And he was like, saliva also has some type of anti something in it, that is safe. And he was like, science is changing every day. That's what Will said. So, he ends up taking the bandage off, and, Marge, she's kind of, you know, embarrassed by it. And she was like, I know it's gross. He's like, no, it's like the coolest thing I've ever seen. And, he helps her change her bandage. And he just goes to show you just what a good young man he was. Just a good kid.
Who's gonna help you now, crazy? You'll die if you try.
Lily ends up pulling up to Mrs. Kirsch, who is cursed. Okay. She pulls up to her residence after she has her whole little meltdown in school. And sidebar, I'm wondering, did Lily's dad work at a pickle factory? Is that the symbolism for the whole pickle jar situation? Because remember when we go back to the beginning of the season when she opens her locker and this pickle jar falls out, and then we see her have the whole situation at the grocery store with all the pickle jars, and then we saw the whole incident with her at school. And I'm like, so did her dad work at a pickle jar factory or something? Because, honey, the pickles are symbolism of something. Okay. Anyway, Lily makes it to Mrs. Kerr's house, and the door is unlocked. So she walks into the house, she goes upstairs, and she starts to look around, and she's seeing all these photos. She's seeing a little bit of costume like stuff laying around, and she's calling for Miss Kirsch. So she ends up walking over to this photo album, and she see this overgrown forehead fool right here. So Lily is looking at these pictures, and she's starting to put two and two together, like, okay, hold on, what is really going on over here?
You finally came. And you brought a friend.
So we get this moment where we get to see Miss Kirsch as a young nurse, and she is apparently working at a children's hospital. So she used this little girl's fear in her youth, of course, to lure the person that she perceives to be her father, which is Pennywise. Miss Kirsch goes into the room where Lily is, and she's like, Lily, what are you doing here? And Lily, she explains to her, well, I was looking for you. I knocked on the door is unlocked, and, I just came up here. I was looking for you. And so while Lily is trying to explain to Miss Kirsch her, being in her home, Lily is still looking around and being very observant of all the things that she's seeing. And she spots a photo of Pennywise. And when she looks at that photo, Miss Kirsch is like, oh my God, you've seen him, haven't you? Oh yes, Lily. I knew you were the one. I knew you could do it. And I'm like, what is she talking about? So when we think about how encouraging Mrs. Kirsch was to Lily, saying, I know you're not crazy. I believe you, face your fears head on. She is literally advising this girl to use her energy of fear to lure in Pennywise. Okay. So not only was she encouraging Lily, but Lily took that and she convinced her friends to go along with it as well. So this was Mrs. Kirsch's whole thing. She was trying to do what she could to lure Pennywise to the surface, even though he was already there, but to make him more prominent because she believes that this man is her dad. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. So Ronnie's dad was messing with a whole fool. Like this lady is literally out of her mind, crazy. And Lily also finds out that Miss Kirsch was the one who was in the graveyard. The picture that Will took at the when they were in the graveyard, it was of her. She was in her full clown gear. Like you got to be kidding me. I felt so sorry for Lily because I'm like, how is she going to explain this to her friends? The one adult who she felt like believed her turned out to be a whole nutcase. So we get to the juke joint, and Rich is there, Marge, Will, and all these black people, honey, just living their life, having a good old time. Rich was in his element. Okay, he ends up seeing like a picture of some jazz musician hanging up, and he, kisses the photo. And I was like, oh, okay, so he, this is his vibe. And he and Marge, they go up to the bar and ask for a Coca-Cola to drink, honey. And clearly the bartender gives them something completely different. Rich and Marge are sipping on their drinks, honey, and it's definitely not Coca-Cola. I was like, this Negro done gave these kids some brown liquor. Nonetheless, Will comes out and they're talking, and Will basically, he lets them know that whatever y'all got to say, Ronnie is still not, she's not here for it. She is not going down to those sewers. She don't want to have nothing else to do with Pennywise. Like, it ain't nothing we're going to be able to say or do to convince her to do anything otherwise, right? And, at some point, this guy comes up and he asks Rich, does he play the drums? And they had a young lady up there singing, and Rich was like, yeah, I do a little something, something. So we get to see him, join the band, and he's doing a really, really good job playing the drums. Like he knows exactly what he is doing. And I have to say, I was not expecting this to be the last moment that this young man actually got to enjoy. Now, at the end of episode 6, honey, the good old boys, they pull up to the juke joint. And before they got there, we got to see them in the bar plotting and scheming, saying what they were going to do. They was going to get hanged by any means necessary. So when they pull up, honey, they all masked. They got masks on, okay, because they don't want to show their face, okay. I was like, okay, most cowards do that. But anyway, there's a black airman outside. He's talking to a young lady, and he sees them pull up, and he tells the young lady to stand behind him, and he addresses them like, is there a problem? And the guy's like, look, we're looking for Hank. We need to search the premises or whatever. And the guy's like, nah. The black guy's like, nah, we got permission to be back here. Y'all can just go on. Ain't nothing going on down here. I don't know what you're talking about. And so in this moment, I was like, I ain't gonna hold y'all. I was like, I just want Pennywise to show up and show out. Like I was wanting Pennywise to show up and just go, just act a whole fool on all they behinds. Okay, I was like, please let Pennywise show up. Nonetheless, honey, the black airman, he has to go into the juke joint and let everybody know that there is trouble brewing outside these doors. Episode 7 starts off with this flashback of Mrs. Kirsch's dad, okay, her actual father, okay, and yes, he called himself Pennywise the Dancing Clown. Watching Pennywise perform, you could tell that he was well liked by the kids. They loved him. And, we also got to see Mrs. Kirsch, as a child. She did work and, backstage helping her father with the props. So I was like, okay, is he the actual Pennywise that we know? You know what I'm saying? And if so, are we going to find out exactly how he became an immortal being? Later, we get to see, Pennywise interact with his daughter. And as you can see, here's Miss Kirsch in her full clown gear. Okay. So she had a mini clown gear and made an adult one, clearly, because this is the same thing we saw in the gravesite and in the photos. But, he was like, her dad was saying to her, we might be the first father daughter duo, because it just seems like she looked up to her dad. I'm not clear. I don't think they mentioned anything about her mom, so I assume that Mrs. Kurtz, was raised by her father. Later on that night, we see this young boy walk out of the woods. Okay, it is pitch black in those woods, and he walks up and he, says to Pennywise that he was looking for, I think he said he was looking for his parents. And so Pennywise is kind of side eyeing him like, what you doing in them woods by yourself? He's out there smoking his cigarette, chilling, taking a break, after a long day of work, honey. And the little boy ends up asking him to go into the woods to help him find whomever he was looking for. So he goes into the woods, and we don't see Mrs. Kirsch's dad anymore. So these guys, they end up, calling her over. They end up finding this handkerchief that I guess her dad Pennywise used to carry, and it was full of blood. And they was like, "I'm so sorry." And so we do not know what happened to her father when he went into those woods. What we do know is that Mrs. Kirsch assumed that the Pennywise that we know is her father. So, honey, the good old boys make their way into the juke joint. Weapons drawn, hold your hands up. We looking for Hank. Hank comes out the room. He's like, hey, look, I'll go ahead and turn myself in. I don't want people getting hurt because of me. And, Ronnie, she's screaming like, Daddy, no. So he wanted to surrender and turn himself in. And I was like, you wouldn't have had to do that had you not been there in the first place. So, honey, the brothers end up pulling out their weapons. Like, y'all got weapons, and so do we. The only difference is our weapons was given to us by the United States military. So, yes, we do have them legally. Like, so what's up? Like, because y'all really trespassing. And at some point, one of the good old boys, he sees, the white girl that was singing with the jazz band, and he tells her, he calls her name. He's like, you need to go home. So he has her leave. So she gets to leave. And I'm thinking, okay, so clearly y'all let her leave. Y'all about to tell these kids to get up out of here because Rich is in there, Will, Ronnie, and Marge. He don't say nothing to those kids. And I was like, okay, what's going on? Nonetheless, the leader of the good old boys, he has his hands up and he tells his guys to lower their weapons. He was like, we don't want no trouble. We'll just go about trying to obtain Hank another way. And so when he said that, I was like, yeah, something about to happen. So they leave out of the juke joint. And I was like, they about to throw something. I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. It was just obvious. Like these men ain't about to let these black men tell them what to do. Like, are you kidding me? And so when the guy walked up to the door, he was like, the door is locked. I was like, they about to set the place ablaze. And indeed, that is exactly what they did. So, honey, when I tell you they were burning this place down, they were burning it down. And I have to tell you, one of the most uncomfortable, it was so many uncomfortable moments with this fire, but hearing those people scream and not being able to get out, oh my God, it really, really, oh, it bothered me. Okay. You got all these people going up in flames, and then Pennywise decides to pop up. I was like, you got to be freaking kidding me. Like, where were you before all this started, sir? Like, I needed you to reveal yourself then. Nonetheless, he sees this woman and he's like, take my hand, I'm gonna take you to safety. And baby, he take her to safety right down his throat. Okay, like gnaws her whole face off, and baby Ronnie is seeing the whole entire thing. So, honey, everything is up in flames, up in smoke, and Dick, he ends up seeing one of the spirits. And this particular spirit, you know, looks like an Indian chief. And so Hank allows this particular spirit to show him a way to get to safety. And so the spirit looks over at this refrigerator. We got to see early on in the episode where uh, the bottom of that refrigerator, it was leaking, and so it kind of made the wood or whatever soft. So Hank was able to, I mean, excuse me, Dick was able to move the fridge out the way, and he, kicked out the wood, the floor, and was able to help Ronnie, her dad, and Will, as well as himself, escape out of the burning building.
Hello, Vicky. What's the matter? Seeing things? Oh, I think they see you too.
We have Hank, Ronnie, and Will, in the woods, hiding behind a tree like some runaway slaves. Okay, they are literally staring at this place just burning to the ground. And listen, I get it. I understand that Hank was, trying to stay safe, but it did not occur to this Negroidian to go in there and look for those kids. Like, are you freaking kidding me? It ticked me off so bad. So we see Marge and Rich still are in the juke joint, okay? And it's really no way for them to get out because flames are everywhere. Unfortunately, Dick was not able to locate them to show them to safety. And so Rich, he sees this box, like this almost like a trunk. And he tells her, we need to hide in here, we'll be safe from the flames or whatever. So he lets Marge get in first, and she soon realizes that there's only room for one person. And she is like, no, 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 no. Like, I'm not about to, no, I'm not about to let you just put me in here and you not be able to be safe. And he was like, no, just do it. Just trust me. I'll be okay. So Rich lays on top of the chest, that he has Marge in. And of course, Marge, she is still, hitting it. She's trying to get him to open it, and he's like, no, because he knows what's going to happen. And he's pretty much accepted his fate. And, he starts talking and, talking about school and seeing her in the hallway, trying to calm her down, just, making her feel at ease. And she does calm down ultimately, and I was like, wow, this kid is really such a stand up guy because he has enough sense to protect someone. And in this moment, he is protecting Marge from what is going to happen to him and what has already happened to several other people in that place. And I was like, wow, Hank, on the other hand, he didn't protect his daughter. And granted, Hank did not commit any of those crimes that he's been accused of when it comes to those kids. However, he still brought harm to his doorstep when he was too busy stepping over somebody else's, okay, and messing with that man's wife. He said himself that if people knew where I really was, I would face a fate worse than prison, meaning they're going to lynch him because you over here messing with this white man's wife. And so for me, it's like you didn't have enough wherewithal to protect your daughter when you decided to go deal with somebody that you ain't had no business messing with. You know what I'm saying? Not only that, the lady is a whole fool. Like, Negro, you was playing in crazy snow. Are you freaking kidding me? And so it just really irked my nerve that this ended up happening to Rich. And, we see Hank basically escape with nothing but smoke on his back. Miss Curse finally has her one-on-one with Pennywise. Okay. Pennywise is outside gnawing off somebody else's face, and this woman shows up from head to toe in her clown drip. Okay. Looking like a whole fool. Like, Hank has no idea who he was dealing with. So she approaches Pennywise, and she is so elated and so happy to see this man. Like, she really believes that this is her dad. And she's hugging him, and she's like, I missed you so much. I'm so happy to see you, and this and that and the third. And so, Pennywise, and this is what makes me wonder if this is actually her father, because he still does not harm this lady as far as devouring her. Okay, he don't bite her. It's like, what is going on? We saw him do that when she was at the children's hospital, and we're seeing him embrace her now, and I'm like, what is really going on? Is he really her dad? But Mrs. Kirsch, she's hugging him, and Pennywise says something to her, and he was like, she's like, I'm so glad you're here. We could, she shows him the costume or whatever. And she says to him, no, excuse me, Pennywise says to her, well, I'm about to go to sleep. I'm about to go rest now. And she was like, what? And he was like, yeah, I'm about to go rest. And so she kind of has the realization that you're not my father. And I'm like, girl, really? You just not realizing that? Again, we do not know for sure. So she was like, you're not him. You're not him, are you? And he was like, yes, I'm Pennywise. I'm your dancing daddy, baby. When he said that, it took me out, because I'm like, well, woman, you used these children, mainly Lily. You convinced her that everything she was feeling was okay to face her fears. And yeah, you should face your fears and things like that. But you were doing it for your benefit. You were doing it because you knew that their fear, their innocence was going to make Pennywise come to surface even more. And now you are having a somewhat of a realization that this man may not even be your daddy after all.
Who are you?
Why, I'm Pennywise, your dancing daddy.
You are not my father.
Yes, I am.
What have you done with him?
Oh, I ate him.
So we see Pennywise, he ends up opening his mouth, and we see this light, this energy that eludes from him. And Mrs. Kirsch, she starts levitating in the air, and it puts her in like this catatonic state. So the fire is out, and Marge, she gets out of the chest, and she walks around and she sees that Rich is gone. He's unalived. um Ronnie and Will come out of the room, and they go back into the building, and they see that Rich is gone, and of course Will loses it. And Ronnie, she's crying too. Of course Marge, she just don't know what to do with herself, because she know what he did for her. He sacrificed his life for hers. And um the only thing, it really bothered me that he is gone. It was sad. It was so sad, because I just was like, oh my gosh, he's such a sweet kid. But I think the only thing that I was okay with, I was like, at least it wasn't Pennywise that got him. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was like, at least it wasn't Pennywise that took Rich out. Ronnie and Marge go see Lily the following day. And honey, Lily is going through it, okay? I'm talking about, she is paler than a bowl of unbuttered popcorn at this point. Like, Miss Kirsten did a number on Po Lily. So they go in to Lily's room, and they let Lily know about them being at the fire, and they let her know that Rich succumbed to the fire.
You okay?
He never did get one all the way to Main Street, did he?
So Charlotte, she goes to see Rose. She, is looking for someone to help her get Hank out of town. What ended up happening, Charlotte, she took Hank's clothes after the fire, and she placed them somewhere. So now the police think that he was unalived in the fire. So she is working on trying to get him out of Derry, and, make sure that he goes undetected. Leroy is trying to figure out what is going on, because the military then found another artifact. Okay, this one is pretty big. It was inside like a tortoise shell. So they ended up finding this artifact, honey. And I was like, okay, what is really going on? Where are these things coming from? And we see like these little markings on them, but we don't know exactly what they mean. And once they find this, Rose's nephew, he ends up seeing them pull it up out of the ground. So he is running back to her house to let her know that, hey, they found another artifact. We may be in some trouble. This artifact that they have found, they take it back on base and they stick it into like this fire or whatever. And so Leroy is like, take it out. So he pulled his weapon. He has weapons drawn on him. It's like a standoff because he's like, y'all need to take it out right now because he's like, something is going on. And his commander ends up calling him. He goes into the room, talks to his commander. His commander is telling him, you know how much this is going to save the world and da 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 da, going back and forth. And so once Leroy ends up leaving the room, the commander says to the other soldier, make sure he does not leave this base. So I don't know what exactly they are trying to do, but I guess we'll find out. So the fact that they are trying to burn this artifact, whatever they're trying to do with it, it has disrupted Pennywise's sleep. Okay. Pennywise said he was going to rest because he was full, and baby, they done woke up the beast. Okay. So while Will's mom, Charlotte, is trying to play Captain Saver Hank Ho, and his dad is on the base trying to stop these people from doing whatever they are doing with this artifact, honey, Will is at home. He gets a phone call, and it seems like he's talking to Ronnie at first. And, she's just saying, I can't believe Rich is gone. He must have suffocated and all that smoke. It must have, he must have been, very uncomfortable, just saying all these caring things. And then the conversation turns left. And she starts saying, how she wished she could have seen him basically choke out. And so you know, Will soon realizes that he is not talking to Ronnie, that he's talking to Pennywise. And he's yelling, like, I'm not scared of you. I'm not scared of you. And baby, he turns around and Pennywise is on his refrigerator.
Lungs bursting like popcorn, making my mouth water.
What?
I can smell his stinky little broken boy body. Can't you?
Shut up! Shut up!
I can't hear you.
I know who this is! You're not gonna scare me!
Become Willy Boy.
You wanna act!
I can't hear you.
I'm done being scared!
I can't hear you. What?
So Pennywise jumps down and he opens up his mouth, and we see all this glowing light, this energy, this cosmic energy, whatever it is, come out of him, and it puts Will into the same trance that it put Mrs. Kirsch in. Now what I will say is, we know, well, per the movie, from what we've seen in the It movie, Will can definitely come back from this, whatever he is doing. And I don't know how far it's going to go because the show ended with this happening. So I don't know if Will is going to be able to snap out of it. I don't know if someone is going to come in and intervene and stop it because, again, his mama was at Miss Rose's house. His daddy is at the base. So I don't know if Marge, Ronnie, and Lily are about to show up. I assume that may be the case, that they are going to head over to Will's house. Sidebar, do they even know where Will live? But anyway, I would assume that that may be the interference that is going to happen to stop this from continuing, what Pennywise is doing to Will. Outside of that, I am wondering if we are going to find out that Pennywise was actually Mrs. Kirsch's dad and what happened to him specifically when he went in those woods. Because again, we do know that those woods have some type of entity in them that allows people to see their worst fears. Okay. I'm also wondering if we're going to get a little bit more detailed information on to where these artifacts came from. Are they specifically from the Indian, from their particular ancestry, or did they come from a spaceship? Like, is Pennywise a alien? Like, we really do not know, again, where he came from. Ugh. I'm wondering also what Leroy is going to do once he realizes that he can't leave base, and if Dick is there, if he's back on the base too. Like, somebody is going to intervene with what is going on with Will and Pennywise. I would be surprised if they don't. That would surprise me more than someone actually coming in and intervening, because I don't see how this is going to end for Will, and why did he choose Will specifically to do this to? You know what I'm saying? Is it because now hold on, I'm wondering now, because Leroy is the one trying to stop them from, oh, okay. So y'all, I just had a thought. So what if Pennywise is pissed because Leroy stopped them from destroying this artifact? Because we know whatever this artifact is, he can't fool up with it. Okay, Pennywise can't fool with this artifact. So now I'm wondering if this is why he targeted Will specifically this time, because his dad intervened with the military, seemingly getting ready to burn that artifact. I'm wondering if that is why Pennywise chose to do this to Will. Oh, I don't know. Oh my God, I cannot wait to see how this how episode 8 is going to turn out. I cannot wait, y'all. I cannot wait, but we shall see. We shall see. Well, that is all I have for you guys in this video. Please be sure to like, share, subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate the support, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.